A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session. In our last session, we discussed some of the concepts in a computer system. Okay, so related stuff we discussed, and under that, the memory unit. Basically, we focused on memory unit. So we discussed what is a computer memory, for what purpose we are using the computer memory, how many different types of computer memories we have, and how many different types of storage devices we have. All these things we discussed. The answers to all these questions we discussed in our previous session. So we said memory, we basically it is a hardware component of your computer system. It is basically used to store the data, isn't it? To store the data or to store the information, we are using this memory. And this memory, we said it is of two types. Okay, volatile and non-volatile. So when I'm saying volatile, it means the content of that memory type will be deleted when the power to that memory type goes off. So if you put the power off to the system, so automatically what will happen, whatever content we are having inside this volatile memory will be deleted, isn't it? So the second type of memory, that is non-volatile memory, opposite to your volatile memory. So as volatile memory content will be deleted, your non-volatile memory content will remain intact even if the power goes down or even if the power failure occurs. So nothing will happen to your non-volatile memory devices. The content will remain unchanged. The content will not be deleted, in short, isn't it? So all these things we discussed in our previous session. So quickly I'm reaching to that point. So this we discussed volatile, non-volatile, and then type of storage devices. We said primary, secondary, cache memory, and CPU registers, isn't it? So primary memory, it is again divided into two: read-only memory, ROM, random access memory, RAM. The purpose of ROM, the purpose of RAM we discussed. Then secondary storage, okay, we discussed it as magnetic storage as well as optical storage, isn't it? Magnetic storage, we are using the examples we discussed like floppy disk, hard disk, and magnetic tapes. Okay, uh, and optical storage, we said the laser beams are used in order to read and write the content inside optical storages. And your optical storage examples, device examples, are your CD, compact disc, as well as DVD, digital versatile disc. So these things we discussed. So then cache memory, we said it is the super fast memory, and it will be in between your main memory and the what we call processor. So as it is faster, the cost will be more. That is the reason why we are maintaining this cache memory in limited amount, isn't it? Again, we said the content are volatile. So whatever content you store inside a cache memory, when the power goes down or when the power failure occurs, simply the content will be deleted. The content will be lost. Okay. Uh, and the next thing, the final, the ultra fast memory, we can say it is faster than your cache memory, that is the CPU registers, whatever memory chips we are going to have inside to your processor. So where we are going to have these CPU registers inside the processor. So inside the processor, for transaction purpose or for processing purpose, for manipulation purpose, whatever whatever registers, whatever memory elements we are going to have, we call those elements as CPU registers. So basically they are ultra fast, faster than your cache memory. That is the reason why they are costlier than cache memory, or in short we can say they are the costliest memory types what we have in the market. Okay, so the speed wise as well as cost wise, the categorization I have shown you on that, I mean in my previous session, isn't it? So first we said we are having hard disks, they are slower and they are cheaper. Okay, auxiliary memory types, okay, auxiliary memory devices, that is nothing but your hard disk, CD, DVD, all these are slower and they are cheaper in the market. and after that we are having primary memory, that is your random access memory. Compared to hard disk, it is faster. Your random access memory, primary memory, it is faster, and accordingly the cost will also be more. So you have to pay more amount in order to get this RAM into your computer. Then we have, after RAM, we have cache memory. Cache memory, it is faster than your RAM as well as costlier than your RAM. Then we have CPU registers. They are the ultra fast memory elements, and they are costliest ones. Okay, whatever memory types so far we have in the market, these CPU registers, they are the costliest ones. Okay, so that is the reason why, according to the cost of these memory elements, we are going to maintain them inside our computer. So hard disks, as they are cheaper, we are maintaining them in terabytes. Then we have random access memory, as they are somewhat more costlier, somewhat costlier than the hard disks. That is the reason why we are maintaining these RAM in smaller amount, like in GBs we are maintaining. So when it comes to cache memory, they are more costlier, so we are maintaining them in MBs, megabytes. And finally, the CPU registers we are maintaining in KBs, kilobytes. Okay, as the cost increases, the amount decreases. The amount of using those memory types inside our computer will decrease. So hopefully you understood this concept, as I have explained it clearly in my last session as well as in this session as well. Okay, so this is the what we call the complete organization of all the memory devices, all the input output devices inside our computer. Okay, so organization inside our CPU, I mean that cabinet box, we are going to have your processor, your primary memory, everything. Okay, and your auxiliary memory, your auxiliary memory types also we are going to maintain inside that cabinet only. Input output devices we are connecting through wires, or nowadays we do have a wireless keyboard, wireless mouse as well. Okay, then we have the um, uh, yeah, after this we have monitor, your printer, all these are output devices only. So output devices, input devices, we are connecting by some means. Okay, so this is another picture to give you an idea what exactly we are going to have. I mean, over here they are simply showing with the help of box diagrams, but here you can have the real-time representation of these hardware components. So as you can see, quickly I will give you an idea over here. So this is the actual PC, personal computer, or you can also call it as general purpose computer. Okay, here we have the monitor. Okay, then we have output devices. These two are output devices only, monitor and speaker. If you have the printer, we can also connect that printer to this CPU case only. Okay, we call this as case of the computer, or sometimes cabinet of the computer also. So keyboard and mouse, these are input devices, so they have connected with proper means. Okay, so inside this CPU, we on that day we discussed many different components we are going to have inside this CPU. So how those components will be in real time, you can see over here. Okay, what we have here, we have the this power unit, power supply, this thing. So we call this thing as SMPS. SMPS. We call this particular thing as SMPS. SMPS stands for switch mode power supply. Switch mode power supply. So basically, whatever power we have, whatever electricity we will get from the government into our houses, it will be an AC current. Maybe your electrical faculty or electronic faculty has given the clear idea of what is AC current and what is DC current. But all internal components of your computer, they are electronic devices. And for your information, electrical devices, they run on AC current, but whereas electronic devices, they run on DC current. So this power supply, this switch mode power supply, what it will do, it will convert the AC power into DC power. So the functionality of this SMPS is to convert the AC into DC. So generally, in order to do so, what we use transformers, isn't it? So it is a kind of transformer. Okay, it is a kind of transformer. So SMPS, switch mode power supply, in order to supply the power to your complete computer, we use this SMPS. Okay, then we have DVD-ROM. So as you know, all are quite familiar with what the functionality this DVD-ROM drive will have inside our computer. So we are having this optical devices like CDs and DVDs, isn't it? So in order to read the content, as it is a ROM, we are also having writers, DVD writers available in the market. So with the help of writers, what you can do, you can perform both reading as well as writing operation. But over here, as it is a DVD ROM, read-only memory, we can only read the content. We can only read the content with the help of this DVD ROM, this particular thing. So then we have motherboard. Many people will have the idea of what this motherboard is, what it will do. Basically, it is going to have the integrated connections of all different devices inside your computer. So you have SMPS, you have to give the power to this motherboard. You have DVD, you have to connect that DVD to this motherboard. Then we also have this CPU and CPU fan. Okay, this is also called as heat shrink fan. So basically heat sink fan, what it will do, it will reduce the, generally whenever a CPU runs inside your central processing unit run inside your computer, it will generate some kind of heat, because it will generate some kind of heat. So to reduce that heat, we use this fan, CPU fan. So basically it will fix on top of this CPU only. It will be fixed on top of this CPU only. This CPU we put over here, as you can see, this particular location inside your motherboard, we put this CPU over here, and on top of this CPU we put this fan also over here. Okay, so over here this CPU will be fixed, and on top of that CPU this fan will be fixed. So this CPU, when it runs inside your computer, generates heat, and this fan, it is used to cool that CPU, to reduce that heat from this CPU. And this is your RAM. This is how it looks like. um, Random access memory, main memory, primary memory, whatever you say, this is the one. So over here only, inside the RAM only, all different types of modifications to your data, are the most recently opened files, most recently played movies, audio tracks, all these things will be available inside this RAM only, random access memory only. So then we have this VGA card, the video card. Okay, so basically in order to connect the monitor, or in order to have some graphics, some high performance graphics inside your computer, if you want such things, you have to bring and you have to put this VGA card into your computer. Okay, these are all outdated things. Nowadays nobody is using like this. Okay, nowadays all these things, many of these things, they are coming integrated inside your motherboard itself. So when you buy a motherboard, it will come with an integrated VGA card, it will come with an integrated sound card. So here VGA card it is showing, as well as sound card it is showing. Okay, then we have hard disk. So to provide the sound inside your computer, we use this sound card. To provide graphics inside your computer, we use this VGA card. Okay, then hard disk. So to storage, it is a secondary storage or the auxiliary storage inside your computer, where we are going to store the data, isn't it? Then we have readers. So different card readers. Okay, we have different types of cards, camera cards, mobile phone cards, isn't it? So or we can also say audio cassettes, video cassettes. So you can have a reader for all these types inside your computer. So if you insist, you want the video cassettes, the big size video cassettes, you want to open inside a computer. So for that you have to have a special type of reader. So this is that kind of readers only. So it is simply saying reader all-in-one internal. So all-in-one in the sense it will do the job. Whatever readers we have inside our market, you can simply replace this reader with that reader. Okay, so all these devices we connect inside a computer, and they work together in order to fulfill your work, in order to fulfill your operations. So after this we started the discussion of software. So software, we said it is a virtual unlike your hardware, it is a virtual component. Virtual in the sense we cannot touch, we cannot sense, we cannot feel. Okay, physical in the sense we can touch, we can sense, we can feel. Okay, but as software it is a virtual component. You cannot touch, you cannot sense, and you cannot feel. So basically what we said, what is a software? It is a collection of programs. Okay, if you put more than one programs together, it will become a software. It will become a software or application, both are same. Okay, it will become a software or it will become an application. So what exactly is a program means? It is a set of instructions. So what is an instruction means? Any command given to the computer, any simple command given to the computer can be called as an instruction. So we start with instruction, then we go to just give me a second. Okay, okay, we start with instruction. So what we said, what is an instruction? Instruction, we said it is a simple command. Any simple command given to the command in the sense an order, isn't it? Basically your computer is, it's always requires orders in order to fulfill your work. It always requires orders. Even if you are giving the same work again and again to it, even if you are giving the same work again and again, you have to give in terms of instructions only, in terms of simple commands only. So if you mix all these instructions together, if you put more than one instructions together, then it will become a program. Then it will become a program. We call it as a computer program, or in short, sorry, uh, computer program, or in short we can also call it as program. Okay, computer program. So if you put such programs, more than one program together, then it will become an software. Then it will become a software, or sometimes we also call this as an application. Hope you understood the difference. Okay, so simple instructions, we are writing simple commands. If you put more than one instruction, more than one command together, then we are getting a program, a computer program. So such programs, okay, if you put more than one program together, then it will give you a software. I mean, based on what criterion we are going to club the instructions, and based on what criterion we are going to club the programs, all these things are dependent on your requirement. Okay, suppose if you have an operation, if you have a task to be performed, so what we do, we mix or we simply club all such instructions which satisfies my task. So I said the computer to print something. Okay, let us say to print something. My task is I want to print. So whatever suitable instructions I have so that my document will be printed from the computer, I put all those instructions together and I will form a computer program. I will form a computer program. Many such programs when you mix together related to this print operation only. So that type of program collection, we call it as a software, printing software, or a printing application. Likewise, hope you understood. So simple instructions we are framing, mixing or clubbing or aggregating, joining these instructions together to form a program. So finally, doing same thing with programs. Okay, joining more than one program together, mixing more than one program together, collecting more than one program together. Okay, which will satisfy the same task, or which will satisfy the same job. So by keeping all such programs together, we are forming the software. So hope you understood the difference between instruction, program, and software. Instruction is the smallest unit. Then we have, if you mix such units together, you will get program. And if you mix such programs, you will get a software or application. Hope you understood this one. Okay. So it is a collection of programs that tells the hardware how to do its job. What is a software means? It is a collection of programs, and where programs in turn are collection of instructions. Okay, what they will do basically, what these programs or instructions will do means they will tell the hardware, they will tell the computer hardware how to do the given job. Whatever job you have assigned, whatever job you have given to the computer, how to do that job, those commands will be given by these programs or instructions. Okay, these instructions need to be written. Yes, in order to write these instructions we need a programming language. Okay, and these programming languages, they have to be understandable by the computer, then only they will understand and then only they will do your job. Okay, if you are asking some person to do the job, to do the desired job for you in a particular language, and which language, the language which you are using, if the third party, if the person is not understanding, then what will happen? Ultimately he cannot do your job. Ultimately he cannot do your job. So whatever commands, whatever instructions you are giving to a person, you have to give in an understandable language, in an understandable language. So here also in my case, when I am saying we are giving the instructions, we are giving the programs to the computer, those programs or those instructions must be written in a language which should be understandable by the computer. So over here in our terminology, we call such a language as a programming language. We call such a language as a programming language. So programming languages, there are many programming languages which your computer will understand, but by some mean. Your computer will not understand any of the programming language directly. Later in this session or in upcoming sessions, very soon we are going to discuss how the processing will be done, how the programs, whatever we are writing in a particular programming language, will be understandable by the computer, how the computer will understand all those instructions written in any of the programming language. It will not understand all those programming language instructions directly. Rather, it depends on something else in order to understand those programming language instructions. Okay, so that is a second, that is a another concept. So very soon we'll start and we'll wind up that concept as well. So let us quickly wind up this software thing over here. So instructions, you simply remember instructions we have to write in a programming language. Okay, so here you have the figure which tells you the decomposition or the division of different softwares. Okay, this software, it is divided, broadly divided into two categories. Okay, so the system software and the application software. System software generally will do the system related stuff. Okay, will do the system related stuff, and application software will interact with the user and satisfy the user needs. So system software, what it will do, it will focuses more on the computer hardware, how to run the computer hardware efficiently. That is the job of your system software. So whatever hardware we have RAM, we have hard disk, we have CPU, we have many things inside your computer, isn't it? So all those things, they have to be utilized, they have to be managed efficiently. Okay, in order to get the good productivity from your computer, all the computer hardware components have to be utilized effectively. So that effective utilization of your computer hardware is the job of your system software. Software we broadly divided into two: system software and application software. System software, what it will do, it will manages your computer hardware. Its primary focus will be on computer hardware only. In order to effectively manage your computer hardware, we are using the system software. But whereas application software, it focuses more on the end user, it focuses more on the user. So I, as a user, if I am interacting with the computer, I have to interact it with the I have to interact only with the help of these application softwares. Suppose if I want to write uh, a document, I want to write a document inside a computer. So definitely, can I do it directly on the computer hardware? No, I need some medium, isn't it? I cannot simply open the what we call, I cannot simply go and I cannot simply write inside the hard drive, because whatever document I am going to create, that document will be saved on the hard drive disk itself, isn't it? So writing, a human being cannot go directly and cannot write on the hard disk drive, isn't it? So definitely we need a medium in order to interact with the hardware of the computer. That medium is nothing but your software. So using this word processors. Generally we use MS Word in order to write a Word document. So that MS Word is the example for application software, which in turn interacts with the system software. Okay, so here in this type of interaction where I'm creating a document, I'm interacting with the MS Word. MS Word is my application software, where MS Word in turn interacts with the Microsoft Windows operating system. So operating system program we have inside our computer, isn't it? So MS Word is going to interact with the Microsoft Windows operating system. So that Microsoft Windows operating system is nothing but your system software. So then finally we have the computer hardware. So already we have one such diagram in our discussion, but for your understanding, I'm explaining that thing over here. So let us say I'm the user and I want to create one Word document. I want to create a document. So can I go directly to the computer hardware and can I write? So here I have the disk. So generally, whatever document I am going to create, that document will be saved on the hard disk drive, isn't it? On the hard disk drive. Can I directly go and interact with the hard disk drive and store that file, create that document over there? Is it possible? No, it is not possible. Definitely what I have to do, I have to open any of the application software inside my computer in order to create that document. So basically what I am doing, I'm using we have different what we call application softwares to create the document, but I am using, okay, what I am using, I'm using, so let us say MS Word. Using MS Word, I am creating the document. This MS Word, can it run directly on the computer hardware? This MS Word, can it run directly on the computer hardware? No. So before installing this MS Word, what I have to do, I have to install the operating system on the computer. Operating system. So that operating system is nothing but your system software. This is your system software, and this is what we call this MS Word as. MS Word is nothing but your application software. Application software. So now this operating system, it can directly interact with the computer hardware. It can directly interact with the computer hardware. Now, so first you create the you create your document using this application software MS Word, and that document with the help of operating system will be stored on the disk drive. Will be stored on the disk drive. So this procedure you have to understand. So yeah, he is the user, I am the user over here. So user is interacting with the application software, which in turn interacting with the operating system, and finally the operating system is responsible for interacting with the computer hardware. So again, one more example I am taking. So let us say the user, he wants to play a song on the computer. He wants to play a song on the computer. So can he play directly? So how we can play the song on the speaker? So let us say this is my speaker. Okay, I have a speaker right over here, and on the speaker I want to play a song. Can I play directly on the speaker? No, not possible. I have the audio track and I cannot play that track directly on the speaker. So what I have to do? I have to use any application in order to play that song. So we have multiple applications. So one such application I remember it as Winamp, where we are going to have play button, pause button, okay, fast forward button. Likewise, multiple interfaces we are going to have on this application, and we are calling this as Winamp. Okay, Windows amplifier, or in short Winamp we call it as. So Winamp we have. So this Winamp, what it will do, is it going to interact with this speaker directly? No, again it is dependent on your operating system itself, your operating system, and then this operating system will play the audio track on the speaker. So if you want to control that audio track, again you have to use this Winamp only. Suppose you want to pass, click on this button. If you want to play it again, click on this button. If you want to fast forward, click on this button. Likewise, we are using this interface, application interface, so that to interact with the computer hardware. So the application interface, it is not interacting with the computer hardware directly, rather it is dependent on the operating system, which in turn interacts with the computer hardware. So this speaker, this disk, what are these? What are these things? These are your computer hardwares. These are your computer hardwares, and these are your computer softwares. Okay, so the generalized category, now hopefully you understood. We said software, it is divided into two types. So the first one we said what is system software, and the second one is application software. So this way you have to remember what is system software and what is application software. Quickly we go to the slide. So this system software, it in turns divided into three different categories. So operating system, system support, and system development. Application software, again two types: general purpose, application specific. So we discuss in detail, we discuss about all these things, system software as well as application software. So first we start the discussion with the system software. So just now I said your system software is responsible for managing the computer resources, isn't it? Managing the computer resources. Over here, that statement you can read. It manages the computer resources. Computer resources are nothing but your hardware components. Your hardware components, and also provides an interface between the hardware and the user. It is an interface between the hardware and the user. Without the operating system or without the system software, we cannot interact directly with the computer hardware. Okay, system software does not support does not serves the user needs directly, as we have seen. We cannot interact most of the times. We have to mention this one. Most of the times we cannot interact directly with the computer hardware or directly with the operating system directly. So how we are interacting means with the help of this application software. So system software does not serve the user needs. System software also not responsible for directly communicating with the user. Again, we have this what we call application software in between. Okay, so it is divided. System software, it is divided into three: operating system, system support, and system development. So what is operating system? We all know. So when you bring a new computer to your home, so without this operating system, your computer will not wake up, and it will not give any kind of output. It will not fulfill any of your desires, isn't it? So ultimately, to get the productivity from the computer, to make your computer functional, we need this operating system, isn't it? Operating system softwares, we have plenty. Okay, plenty variety of operating systems readily available in the market. So if you go to Windows only, we have many varieties. If you go to Windows only, we have many varieties. So other than this Windows, what operating systems we have? We have Linux, isn't it? We have Linux, we have Ubuntu, we have, and your Android, it is also an operating system. Okay, Android, we have iOS, isn't it? Apple OS, Mac OS we have. So all these things are examples for operating systems. So inside Windows, we have Windows XP, Windows 7, Windows 8, Windows 9, and now we have Windows 10 also, isn't it? So if, yeah, quickly take it as an assignment and try to complete. So the different types, different versions of operating systems. Go to the browser, feel free to search, put your queries, search the content. How many different types of operating systems do we have? And inside Windows only, what is the first operating system and where we are currently right now? Do this complete research from your side. So what is the first operating system and how the evolution has been done, and what is the current latest operating system in Windows? Same way, do this for Linux, do this for Macintosh, that is Mac OS. Hopefully you do it. So take it as an assignment or take it as an homework task. So what you have to do? So first thing, inside Windows, as you know, it is a particular what we call vendor for operating system. So inside Windows, what is the oldest or the first version? Okay, first version to current version. What is the current version? This type of research you have to do. Same thing inside Linux. Okay, Linux also, what was the first version and what is the current version. Current version. See, first to current you have to do like that. So some people may think that you have to find out only the first version and only the current version. Not like that. From first to current, how many in between? We have so many. That categorization, that information also I need. So here also same thing. From first to the current, all the releases from this Linux I want. Same thing from Macintosh. Okay, Macintosh, it is a Mac OS. In short, we call it as Mac OS. So inside Mac OS also I need what was the first version of Mac OS and what is the current version of Mac OS, and in between how many releases we have. So this type of information, and if possible, if you have more enthusiasm to do, so these three are compulsory. They have all the students, they have to do these three. So if you have more enthusiasm, if you want to do it if you want to go one step ahead, so then you can do with Android. Okay, Android also you do. Then in Android also, what is the first and what is the current version. Okay, what is the current version. Then in your Apple phones, isn't it? In your Apple phones, what operating system? iOS. Do the same thing for iOS as well. So here you have something interesting thing, isn't it? So the names to this Android, they are giving, creative names. All those things I want. So for what was the name of the first Android version, and what is the name of the current Android version? Likewise, I want all the details. So quickly make it take it as an assignment, take it as an homework kind of thing, and do it. See, many times these type of simple things only will make you vibrant in the classroom. Okay, you will gain the attention of the faculty, and in terms of awarding the marks, in terms of what we call showing some benefits. So definitely you will be privileged if you do such things. If you fulfill such activities, you will be privileged. Okay, so quickly I will remove this one and I will go to our PPT. Yes, quickly we have to wind up this thing. So what are operating system? It provides services like interfacing. First of all, how the user is going to interact with the systems, that type of interface it will give. Interface is nothing but it will give you the icons. So when you turn on the system, basically what will happen? The operating system will turn on. So when the operating system turns on, what you will get, what you will see on the computer, the icons, the interfacing points, isn't it? The icons, the taskbar, the menu bars, all these things you will see on the computer screen. So this type of things we call it as interface, user interface, graphical user interface. Okay, so your operating system will provide an interface to the user. Okay, so next it will also provide interface to the files, whatever databases we have inside the computer. To all those things it will provide like an interface, like an interaction kind of thing. Okay, it also provides interfaces. So if you are using internet inside your computer, so definitely we have to use many different protocols when we are using internet inside our computer. So all those communication systems, all those protocols will be supported by your operating system only. Okay, so then uh, yeah, running your computer in an efficient manner, running your computer in an efficient manner, it is the responsibility of your operating system only. So these three services or these three responsibilities we have given to the operating system. The first thing, the primary thing, it will provide an interface. The second thing, it will provide a communication system so that you can access the internet, isn't it? And the third one, it will act or it will manage all your computer devices efficiently, all your computer hardware efficiently. So this is operating system. Then we have system support software. So it provides utilities and other operating system services. So what are these utilities means? So sometimes you want to sort some kind of numbers, so sorting programs. Okay, Then operating system services is nothing but uh, suppose if you have a disk, if you have a disk with you and if you want to format the disk, so what application you use? We are not going to use any kind of application. Inside our operating system only we have this disk utility service, disk format service. So simply we use the disk format service in order to format our disk. So these two types of services we call them as system utilities. Okay, so the first one is sorting programs and the second one is formatting programs. So these two things, see over here, your system support software is responsible. I mean, system support softwares are basically two. So the first one is, so what is that one? First one is utilities. Okay, then we have other operating system services. So your system support software, it is basically divided into two. The first one is utilities and the second one is other operating system services. So what are utilities in the sense? Your sorting programs and disk format programs. We call them as utilities. We call them as utilities. And what are other operating system services in the sense? Okay. So sometimes your operating system will come up with a what we call security monitoring software. Like it will come with a firewall, it will come with a default antivirus, okay, a default malware software. All those things we call them as security monitoring softwares. So such softwares, security monitoring softwares, and performance statistics. I mean, how good the processor is performing, okay, how much memory you used from the hard disk, all those statistic analysis we call them as performance statistics programs. Okay, these type of programs comes under other operating system services. Other operating system services. Hope you understood this one. System support software, we have two things, utilities as well as other operating system services. Utilities, we have sorting programs and disk formatting programs. Then we have other operating system services, we have performance statistics and security monitoring systems. Okay, so the next thing we have system development software. So the third type in your system software, that is system development. So it includes, see, system development in the sense, basically we use these system development softwares to develop new applications. So using an application to develop new applications. So such type of programs we call them as system development softwares. Okay, so they include language translators. So we sometimes we are going to have this language translators. So basically what they will do means they will convert one language program into some other language program. Okay, so language translators are nothing but translators. Generally what the translators will do, they will translate one language into some other language. So over here, so language translators inside a computer will translate a program written in one computer language into some other computer language. Okay. So debugging tools, yeah, very soon we are going to understand what you mean by debugging. Debugging in the sense making your program error free. Making your program error free. So to do so we use debugging tools. So all those debugging tools will also comes under system development software. Then we have computer aided software engineering. Okay, computer assisted or computer aided software engineering, we call them as case. Okay, in order to what we call develop an application, generally we follow the software engineering principles. So all those software engineering principles we are going to have inside these type of applications, inside these type of softwares, computer assisted software engineering softwares. So hopefully you understood system development software, language translators we have, debugging tools we have, then we have case. Okay. So the next thing, application software, it is directly responsible. Operating system is not directly responsible for satisfying the user needs, but whereas your application software, it is directly responsible for satisfying the user needs. Okay, so whatever desire you have, whatever job you have which you want to be fulfilled by the computer, you will give that job to the application program. You will not give that job to the operating system directly. So application softwares, again they are divided into two types, general purpose and application specific. See over here we have seen the categorization. So software, first of all, the software, it is divided into two types, system software and application software. System software into three types: operating system, system support, system development. All these things we discussed. Now application software, we have general purpose and then we have application specific. So these two things we have to discuss. So if you see, general purpose means for a variety of purposes. A single application program, a single application software will satisfy a variety of user needs. Okay, a variety of user needs. So that is the reason why we are calling it as a general purpose software. Okay, so here if you read the second point, I mean first point, they can be used to do more than one job. Okay, they can be used for more than one applications. So that is the reason why we are calling them as general purpose softwares. So if you see the examples, of word processors, your Microsoft Word, your Microsoft Word will be used in different domains, isn't it? Now in health industry, in manufacturing industry, in education industry, in universities, okay, in defense, okay, many different applications it is having, many different domains are using your word processors. So that is an example for general purpose software. Okay, because it is not specific to any particular field, any particular domain, or any particular application. It can be used as a general purpose software. Okay, then we have database management systems. So very soon you will understand what are database management systems. They are going to store the information. Okay, in order to store the information in a structured manner, we use these database management systems. Okay, and we also have AutoCAD tools. Computer aided design system is nothing but your AutoCAD. So your AutoCAD, it can be used in what we call in electrical fields. So in a building, how you want to do the electrical wiring, that to show we are using AutoCAD. Plumbing, how to do the plumbing, for that also we are using AutoCAD. And the walls, the civil engineers, how the in order to construct, in order to lay out the pillars and all, for that purpose also they are using, civil people also they are using this AutoCAD. Okay, and inside the mechanical industry, so suppose if you are designing a automobile part of a vehicle, so that part design you can do it inside an AutoCAD virtually, and you can see the dimensions and all, you can put inside the AutoCAD virtually, and you can see the performance over there. So all these things, yeah, this AutoCAD software, it can be used in many different domains, like civil engineers they are using, electrical engineers they are using, and mechanical engineers they are using. So likewise it is having the scope in different domains. So that is the reason why we are calling this AutoCAD also as a general purpose software. Okay, because it is having more than one purposes to use. Okay, variety of purposes to use. Okay, then application specific. Application specific means whatever application software you have, its purpose of development is specific to that domain, or specific to the purpose. So they can be used only for the task for which they are designed. Okay, okay, when you're designing this application, the task is fixed, and that is the reason why the developed application will satisfy only that particular task. Okay, they cannot be used for general tasks, they cannot be used for more than one task or general purpose tasks. Examples, chartered accountant people, they use the ledger system. Okay, in order to prepare the balance sheets, in order to prepare the um, accounts information, they use these ledger softwares. So these ledger software, they are application specific. Okay, the lawyer cannot be used that ledger system, like how he is using MS Word. So if you give that ledger software to a lawyer who is going to work in a court, it is of no use to him. Or you get that ledger system and give it to a mechanical engineer, it is of no use to him. But whereas if you give the Microsoft Word application, both the lawyer as well as mechanical engineer will get the application from it, will utilize that MS Word in his domain. So just to understand the difference between this ledger system and the general purpose and application specific softwares, I'm giving this example. Hopefully you understood. So there are some material management systems. Okay, like in mostly we see this material management systems in general stores. What they do, they are going to have some material application in their computers, and when you are purchasing something and when you bring those things to the billing counter, what they will do, they will simply see that barcode and they will type that barcode, or they will scan that barcode, so that what we call that software will automatically calculate the bill for it. Okay, they will simply input the barcode and they will simply input the quantity over there, and accordingly the software will calculate the final bill, isn't it? Final bill. So whatever this material management software they have, the general store people have, it is again application specific software. We can use only to manage the materials, we cannot use for any other purpose. Okay, so likewise we have different application specific software, and these two examples you can remember: material management system as well as the general ledger system. Hopefully you understood these things. And the relationship, see, we have the system software, we have the application software, and we have the user, and we have the computer hardware. So how these things are related to each another? So at the very core of the system, at the very core of your system computer, we are having the hardware, as you can see over here. As you can see over here, the hardware where it is visible in the sense at the very core. So over here we have the hardware, the internal part of your computer. Our only goal is to use this hardware and get our work done, get our job done. But we cannot use, because they are not like mechanical tools, isn't it? They are not like mechanical tools, so that to use it like a hammer or use it like a screwdriver. Okay, uh, they are electronic components. So we cannot, in order to get the functionality from those electronic components, we need to put some software on them, isn't it? Then only they will work, then only they will give the output for us, then only they become productive for us. So our primary goal when we have a computer with us is to utilize the hardware, to make the hardware functional. And how we are making that hardware functional means with the help of the system software. We are installing the system software on top of the hardware. So with the help of the system software only, your hardware, your computer hardware will work, your computer hardware will function. And after the system software, we have the application softwares. And as you know, the user many times interacts directly with the application software, which in turn interacts with the computer system software, which in turn interacts with the computer hardware. This type of relationship I have shown you in a what we call sequential diagram also. The user is interacting with MS Word, and MS Word is interacting with Windows operating system, and then finally Windows operating system is interacting with the computer hardware. Here also that same phenomenon is shown. The user is interacting with application software, that is nothing but MS Word. MS Word is interacting with system software, that is nothing but Windows operating system, and Windows operating system is interacting with the computer hardware. Sometimes whenever the user wants to do these applications, whenever the user wants to do some disk formatting or sorting programs or performance statistics, if he wants to see the performance statistics or security monitoring applications, if we want to use all those things, they are inside the system software only. They are not application softwares, they are inside the system software. So here, yeah, this outer white white circle, isn't it? Outer white circle, it is showing the user. So the user will have here also, isn't it? This entire thing, this entire part is nothing but your user. This entire part is nothing but your user. So the user will also come here. So the user is also having the flexibility. That is the reason why I said most of the time he interacts with the application software. But if he feels it as a necessity, but if he feels as it as a necessity, then what he will do, he will directly interact with the system software. And when that thing will happen means when the user uses any of the formatting, disk formatting tool, or performance monitoring tool, for performance statistics tool, or security monitoring tool, if he is using any of these things, he's interacting directly with the system software. So the notch over here inside this application software is giving you the direct interaction with the system software as well. So if it feels like this, if the application software is feels like this, then it means that there is no way that the user can interact directly with the system software. There is no scope that the user can interact directly with the system software. But as we have a notch over here, as we have a gap over here, so the user, if he feels, he can also interact with the system software directly. So this diagram, it is very important, and this so many times they will ask, okay, along with the computer hardware software, they will also ask the relationship between system and application software. So you have to remember this diagram and how the user is interacting with the computer hardware. I mean, what path he is following in order to interact with the computer hardware. One path is application program, system software, then hardware. Another path is directly system software to computer hardware likewise. Okay, so in our upcoming session, because already the time is running out, in our next session we will see the computer languages. Okay, hopefully we start and we'll conclude the computer languages, and after that, I mean, I'm taking 2 more sessions to wind up this first chapter. So because I have started slowly, so very soon we'll take that speed and we'll move forward. But anyhow, as it is a very inception phase, I don't want you people to struggle a lot. So that is the reason why I have started slowly. So still, this is my third session, and still we are in basic computer components only. So generally, if it is an offline class, if we are interacting directly, I would have completed all these things in 1 session or hardly in 2 sessions. Hopefully you understood this one. Thank you very much, students.